DiMaggio joins me along with Carolyn Soleri to this that were recorded at a senior Halloween party. Anthony, I might not turn you up. I think my internet is not going to be good enough. There you go. Can you hear me?
You're in and out, Fred.
I know my internet is not the best right now, so I'm hoping that it will manage. How's everything? How you doing, Anthony?
Good.
I'm waiting for Carolyn Soleri to join us. I told her to come on, but anyway, I wanted to have you guys on, and you guys, actually, Carolyn also reached out to me in regards to comments that were made. She was at a senior Halloween party, and the mayor was there. It was candidates nights, right? And this candidates night thing is when candidates go around, whether they're the incumbent or they're challenging the incumbent, they'll go around to different senior centers to solicit themselves, basically sell themselves to seniors, a group of residents or voters that are, always, usually likely to vote, very important demographic. So they went there. Carolyn Soleri, who's an advocate for seniors, she's always at the senior events, and she has a lot of issues at these senior events. There was the time when John Rubel called her a scammer over at the Bernice Breckman Center, McLean. Then there was the time when, not too long ago, at the Castle Royale, where she was upset over an event that was going on there because it was outside as opposed to inside. It was a very hot day. And then very recently now at the Nodine Hill Center, she exchanged some words with the mayor. Do you know much about this? And we'll get into CJ Hackett, but I wanted to kind of give a little backstory on this.
Well, I think you summed it up pretty well. I basically know what you know, and I heard the recording. And look, Carolyn, she has these issues because she's vocal. She's vocal in her opposition to, if something comes out of somebody's mouth that she doesn't like, she's going to challenge it. And these people around here, our politicians, they don't know how to deal with that because they don't get too much of it, ever. Well,
I got Carolyn here. Let me bring Carolyn up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Carolyn. Good evening.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you. Now, I was given a little bit of backstory over, the comments that were made by the mayor, Mike Spano, that you recorded. You sent me a copy of the audio. I couldn't all the way make out what the mayor was saying, but it has a lot of people upset. This was an article. This was talked about in the Yonkers Ledger. In fact, I was just shown that, it comes up on Google. If you Google it, you can see it there. Family of CJ Hackett very upset over comments made by the mayor. It's election, season. Election is right next week, Tuesday, right? And what kind of impact is this going to have on the election? They're saying that this is all about, people who just don't like the mayor, take an opportunity to take shots at the mayor. But you're saying that the mayor was blaming the kids, CJ Hackett and your nephew, who was there the night when CJ Hackett was hit and killed by an employee of the city of Yonkers who was driving while heavily intoxicated. So tell me about what happened.
Well, I was at a senior function. I was invited to quite a few of them because, I work with the seniors, volunteering, like if they need medicine, we can call the companies for that. So different things. So I was invited to the event. I went to the event. That was my third event. And it was at the Nodine Hill Center. And he came in and he was not well received. Either was Jose Alvarado. And I think you've posted part of the video where they've turned around and said to him, well, why is it you only come at election time? It'd be nice to see you the rest of the year. So they went into it about affordable housing. They weren't happy. There's no senior affordable housing, the vetoing of the affordable housing. And I asked a question because he said he didn't veto it. It's higher than it's ever been. And I said, excuse me, raise my hand. I was like, no, you did. You vetoed affordable housing. That was it. I think he had had enough, and it was not a happy room. And then they attacked Jose Alvarado about, he said, I'm running. They said, what are you running for? And then afterwards, the mayor was across the room. Now I'm at a table against a wall, and there's a table in front of me, and he starts coming over, and I said, I could see the look on his face. So I knew he was going to say something to me. So as we were and the whole time he knew I was taping, he says something on there about me coming to events.
I'm sorry, Carolyn.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you just repeat what you said? You were breaking up a little bit. I'm sorry. You were lagging. What was it that you were saying?
That the mayor knew full well that I was videoing the event, because what I do is send the events. There was 3 seniors that couldn't come. They were homebound. So I just send the videos to them so they feel like they're a part of it. So when he was coming over to me, I said, oh boy, I could see the look on his face. I knew he was not happy. And when he walked over to me, the first thing I said, hey, he turned around and said to me, and I think you have a clip of it, where he said, I'd much rather give you a beatdown than him, meaning Morante, because it was candidate week and there was a bunch of literature for the different candidates on the table. And he looked at the bag and I'm like, wow. And then he, you could tell he was angry. I knew he was angry. I knew when he walked over to me because I was sitting at the table. He came to me and he said, that's when he said what he said about the boys. And for the first time, I think in my life.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Carolyn, 1 second. All right. Let me just recap. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the mayor comes over to you. You're at the senior event. He's there with Jose Alvarado. He comes over to you and he says he wishes that he can give you a beat down instead of.
Yeah. Freddy's internet is a little choppy, but
sorry about the lag.
No, it's all right. Who was it? Who exactly was it, Carolyn, that he was saying? Because I heard the comments. I heard what he said. I actually sent it to Freddy. I don't know if he's going to be able to play it because he's having some technical difficulties. But right. I heard it. He said he'd rather throw you a beat down than him, and he didn't. We don't know who he was talking about.
Well, he looked down on the table, so there was like a Jose Alvarado. There was a Mike Spano. I'm assuming he didn't mean himself. There was a Morante thing. So it was one of the other candidates. And I was really quite taken back because I've never seen the mayor in that type of light where, usually he's smiling and happy, but he's exhausted. This is the first time he's really running a real race. Right. So I didn't know what to do. And I was pinned against the table, against the clear glass. And when he brought up the boys, I was so shocked. I even said to him, wait, what do you, because I was trying to process in my head that he's blaming children for a 46-year-old that decided to drink 17 drinks, drive drunk. And according to the DA in court, he said that he got out of the van 1 minute before he hit CJ and was dancing in the street with a beer in his hand, got back in his van, and that's when he hit CJ, mortally wounded him. Okay, so in my head.
1 second, Carolyn. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I cut out. I just want to go back to this. Okay, so he's at this event. He says to you, I would rather give you a beat down than Anthony Morante. And you recorded this, right? What were the comments that were made in regards to CJ Hackett?
You have that. It's all on recording because he turned around and said.
Well, I would like for you to tell me.
Well, he turned around and said, I said, what? I'm CJ. I first said mom by accident. I said his aunt. I said, there's a lot going on. I said to him, I'd really like to talk to you. I'm a community advocate. I do a lot in the city for free, working with kids with IEPs. And then he said, you do know with this. He's like, you do know what those boys were doing the night before. And I looked, so it wasn't just his words, it was his expression. And I looked at him and I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And he doubled down and said it again. And I'm like, you're not blaming those boys, are you? And you can hear me say it. I was so shocked that for 15 months, yesterday made 15 months this happened. So for 15 months, you've been avoiding any contact with the family or my brother meeting with him. They've asked for meetings. You've been ignoring it all. And then that's what you're going to come up with? So I said, well, what do you mean you're blaming the boys?
So you're saying that by there was some and just for people who may not know, there was rumors, or there was this I'm assuming, and I'm going to believe it to be a false accusations that the boys
It's frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen, Freddy. I'll pick up a little bit. So
make okay. So I can't.
Yeah, it's very choppy, Freddy. So what I don't get, Carolyn, is what exactly is it that he's trying to imply? Because my understanding of the law, and I think I spoke about it on the podcast that we did with Freddy some 8 months ago. I don't know, 6-8 months ago. We were talking about the CJ case. Is as a matter of law, as a matter of penal law, the case starts from a point of, and it's written right into the penal law under the vehicular manslaughter statutes, that if you were driving drunk, okay, and an accident occurred, then the starting point is that the accident occurred because you were drunk. Your intoxication caused the accident. That's where we start. And it's up to the defendant to raise in court any other factors, that might indicate fault on the part of somebody else involved that would get the defendant off the hook. Okay, it's not the mayor's job, certainly not the district attorney's job. It's the defendant's job. Now, we never got to that point because he pled guilty, but he only pled guilty because he got offered such a great deal. Now, you can ask yourself, why was he offered such a great deal? And, the district attorney, Mimi Blankets, as I call her.
Well, because I can't, and it's not.
When the district attorney is deciding whether or not to offer a certain deal to a defendant, to someone who's been charged with a crime, indicted for a felony, etc., she can consider things like, what were some of the factors that contributed to this accident? Okay, so what she can do is she can take a look at all the facts involved and try to predict the defendant's chances of successfully raising a rebuttal to that presumption. Right? Because the presumption is it happened because Dolan was drunk. Now, what Mimi can do is she can calculate Dolan's chances of successfully raising a rebuttal and say, you know what? I think he might successfully convince a jury that it was CJ's fault and not his, and he might get off scot-free. So for that reason, I'm going to offer him 1-4 if he pleads guilty. To this day, none of us know what those other contributing factors that allegedly, CJ was responsible for are. Mike Spano seems to know because he goes around saying, oh, we know what those boys were doing. Well, what were they doing? It can't just be that they were drinking, because getting hit by a car while drunk doesn't make you responsible for the car accident. You see what I mean? So the way I see it is, let's make an analogy. Yeah,
let me ask you, Anthony, really quick. In terms of the this being put out there and the mayor saying something like this to Carolyn, I mean, how does that impact any investigation or the case and as a whole? I mean, what does this say about this investigation, that maybe information is being leaked, or that there is this inappropriate
Well, I think it's indicative of what's been going on behind the scenes the entire time. I mean, he's not the only one going around, putting forth this seemingly unjustifiable defense for Stephen Dolan. I've never seen this before. I've never seen the victim of a drunk driving accident be pinned with the blame by the people on the prosecutorial side, like the DA, like the police brass, like the mayor. I've never seen it before. So you're going to have a hard time convincing me that it has nothing to do with who he is. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I mean, why would they go through, to this lengths, to great lengths to kind of, help out Stephen Dolan? I mean, I know
Well,
he's a city employee. We know that, but
his stepmother works for DPW. His father's a retired sergeant. His uncle's a retired sergeant. Both beloved guys within the Emerald Society. We spoke about that connection with Pat McCormick, and I personally know the cop who owns the building, the retired cop who owns the building that Stephen Dolan lives in. I was able to have a conversation with him. I'm not going to say his name here. He's a good guy. He really didn't do anything wrong here at all. But I know him, and I said to him, I said, look, bro, what it comes down to is in the immediate aftermath of the accident, did they have way to have knowledge of who it was that they were looking for? Because if they knew it was Stephen Dolan, okay, if they knew it was Joe Dolan's kid, Bob Dolan's nephew, I'm telling you right now, there's no way they actively pursued him in a real effort to try to catch him before he sobered up. I know how the Investigations Bureau works. Everything down there.
I apologize for that. My.
Yeah, it's okay.
I think I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and he was like, you know what? I don't know whether or not they did or they didn't, so I'm not going to argue, which is what he said to me. And I said, for me, it's that simple. If they knew who they were looking for, then they stopped looking, and they staged an arrest a day later. If they didn't know who they were looking for, then they probably didn't delay his capture. They probably did try to catch him, and it was just shoddy police work that caused the delay. But we'll never know. I mean, investigators could take a look and know I'm in no position to do that, so it may never happen. But, for me, that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
I think what upset, you got to understand, the sentencing is December 14th. The family is just short. And at this point, it's just the mayor saying that we already knew this is something that was okay. So Brevero is the DA. I think Brevero really did try this case. I really believe that. I had conversations with the man on myself on the phone, and I really believe he tried to get 4 years. There's no doubt in my mind. We have been told it wasn't him. It's not the DA. It's the judge. Okay.
Carolyn, I want to just go to some comments here.
Yes.
This would never have happened if it was Spano's nephew who was murdered by that drunk instead of CJ. We have Lucy Yang, Jen. This is disgusting listening to the opinions of people who dislike Mike Spano. Why did you wait until the Friday before the election day to release it? Is that when Moranti told you to release it?
Hold on 1 second. That's when it happened.
Carolyn, 1 second.
Yeah.
Carolyn, hold on. It's a shame what they're doing. Wasn't blaming the boys. So yeah, again, like you were saying, it just happened, right? So it's not like you waited the day before, and this wasn't something that Anthony Moranti told any of us to do. We're just talking about it. It's been something that's come out on the Yonkers Ledger. The family's upset. Hi, Lucy Jen. This is the Yonkers Ledger responding. This is the author of the article. We had to wait for the comments from the district attorney and the mayor's communication director. We got those comments on Thursday and published the article on Friday.
Right.
So what I want to say is, this is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Karen.
No, this is nothing political on this side. The politics is on that side. The fact that, again, my brother's been on your show. My brother came in there and was nothing but honest about everything that went on. He had a map of the cameras. They're still missing camera 2 from the house because they don't realize my brother has 30 years experience in security and cameras. So when he went, they finally found camera footage and he went to go look at it. And he said, where's camera 2? Why do you have 1, 3, 4, and 5? And there's no 2. There's just so many things here. This has been written to the Justice Department. He's written to the Attorney General. He's written to the New York State IG. And it's like the politics, where do you get a fair shake anywhere here in New York State with all these politicians? Okay, this is about a boy that died. The boy wasn't responsible. The 46-year-old man that decided to drink 17 drinks was responsible. The bar that served him drinks was owned by Mayor Mike Spano's nephew. He should be responsible. The responsibility isn't on children. And here's the other thing. They originally put out to the community that he was riding our scooter on the wrong side of the road. And that's not what he came out of. They came out of Coyne Park. So if you know where Coyne is going up towards like the bridge, okay, you're going to naturally be on the wrong side of the road because you're coming out of the driveway. But they kept calling my brother, asking my nephew, where did you move his body? Did you move his body? Because it didn't fit their narrative that they continue to try to say that it was CJ on the wrong side of the road, not Dolan. Okay,
right.
it was
Caroline, really quick. I want to go back to something you said about the establishment that Stephen Dolan was at. Comment here by Joan Gronowski. Putting this conversation aside for a moment, I want to know why the establishment at which the driver was drinking that night have not been identified. Who owns those establishments? What are they trying to cover up? And so you just mentioned who owned the bar that was where he was drinking at. You said they were related to the mayor.
Yeah, the mayor's niece apparently is married to a retired New York City cop who is the owner of the bar. He's a Hispanic guy. He's married to one of Spano's nieces or cousins. I'm not really sure, Carolyn. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's a Spano relative because it says right on her Facebook page. It says her first name, last name is Spano, hyphenated to her married name.
So a lot of the issues. Let me go. Just to kind of with a lot of the the allegations or the concerns from people in the community, or some say they know for sure that there was some kind of cover up, or that Stephen Dolan was being helped out in certain ways. One was because of the time that it took for them to arrest Stephen Dolan, and secondly, another things that was questioned. You talked about it also was the cameras. They initially said there were no cameras in the area. Your brother went out there and counted a bunch of cameras. I know Anthony DiMaggio, you and I did a podcast about the cameras. You identified the locations of the cameras, and I also went out there myself and I saw that there were plenty of cameras. The city of Yonkers and the police department has, bragged about this new camera system that they have now. It's amazing and stuff. So, that's just for people who may not know. That's one of the reasons, one of several reasons why people were concerned that there was some kind of cover up going on. Why wasn't there any footage of it? Where are the video cameras, right? And so here we are. People are still upset about what's happened. No real answers have been given to the family. Sure, Stephen Dolan was arrested, but he's facing very minimal time for taking the life of a 16-year-old boy. This kid will never have any milestones. Your nephew, Carolyn, was also impacted, traumatized by having to witness his friend killed, right, and holding him. That's traumatic. That's something that, you see in, gang infested areas where the people shooting each other, not somewhere like a McLean over there, like Coyne Park, right? But he had to go that, unfortunately. And now here you are, with audio from the mayor stating that, he wished it was you he was given a beat down, and also that he knows what the boys were doing the night before, implying that they were drinking. And so that, is also concerning. That's also made people question, why is they defending this guy, Stephen, and the family very upset. The family well, Carolyn, how are they feeling right now? What are they going through?
I actually don't know them well. My brother knows them well, speaks to them all the time. They are just devastated. If you look at the comment, and I don't have it, but if you look at the comment that the father put a statement in the Yonkers Ledger, if you could scroll that up and read that, there is no parent that could read that comment and it not get to your heart. I mean, justice is what CJ needs. CJ celebrated his 17th birthday in the grounds, and all the mayor wanted to care about is, I know what those boys were doing. It's not acceptable. This isn't about elections, or you know what? At the end of the day, corrupt politicians is what we need to get out of New York State. We need somebody to know that if you go before a judge, it's not a judge that, got there because politicians are pushing them there. You want to go in front of a judge if something happens and you go in front of a judge, you want to know that judge is going to give you what the law is, not some politician that, maybe it was their cousin, friend, or whatever it happened to.
And just, Carolyn, just to be clear, because maybe everyone may not know, politics well, you follow it well, but you're referring to judges who are, politically active, right? Judges are supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to be fair and equal in and handing out their justice and stuff. But here in Westchester County, Yonkers, we see oftentimes that the judges are very politically involved. They are actually, many times they are appointed or chosen, right? There's a line, I've heard this from judges, people who are judges now, saying they had to wait in a line to be next because it's all about, who's favored, right? Who do they like? And once they are, given this position, because ultimately a lot of times handed this position, now they owe favors to people. And so in the situation like this, where a gentleman like Stephen Dolan is going to go before a judge, you see judges who owe favors to certain political, connected people, elected officials, and they're going to, not, distribute justice equally. And we've seen this. We've seen a lot of times where judges here in Westchester County and Yonkers have had to recuse themselves from cases so many times because they're so politically involved. Right, that it takes away any confidence we may have in it. I want to read the comment by Christopher Hackett. He's the father of C.J. Hackett. He states, "I can't believe a sane man would ever say such nonsense, especially a mayor. The heartache just continues. The fix was in from the beginning. From the crooked cops to the fixed courts, CJ never had a chance at justice, and we will never have closure. I cannot express enough my disgust for that corrupt cesspool called Yonkers." Anthony DiMaggio, I want to ask you, he states here, from the crooked cops. You have a lot of, connections and people you still communicate with in the department. Talk about that. Crooked cops.
Well, one of the big themes throughout all of the podcasting that I've done, whether it be with you or on my own, is that, the Investigations Bureau and the Field Services Bureau, which is like the patrol cops, okay, basically like two different police departments. And I know we don't want to get too political here because this is about CJ, but over 12 years, the Investigations Bureau, the detective division really has become a massive political dumping ground. It's full of favors. There's no litmus test for whether or not you become an investigator. So, one of the points that I make to people when I talk about the CJ Hackett case is that, if Stephen Dolan is by, relation to other members of the Friends and Family Network, if he's one himself by extension, okay, and they know that it's him that they're looking for, well, what are they going to have to do? They're all Friends and Family Networks themselves, the detectives. That's how they got there in the first place. So they would, in essence, be going after, actively pursuing a guy, to try to get him before he sobers up, a guy who's a member of the same network that they are, because that's how they got where they are. So, I mean, it's you know what I mean? It's
right. And you said this
something like that to happen.
And you've said this, and we've talked about this in podcasts, right? You're not referring to the everyday officer in the street, the rank and file. No. You're talking about upper management, the higher ups who are a lot of times, awarded these positions, right? They are given these certain positions because of, political favors or, the relationship that they may have with certain people, right? And so They are now indebted to elected officials, the current administration. And so they have to, or willingly they do it. Maybe they're not forced at times. They do it, because
if they knew it was Dolan, right? So say some investigator who was working that night, whether it be Cognatello or what's his name, Breen's son-in-law, I can't remember his name, Bennett.
Right.
Bennett, right? Megan's husband. He was working that night. Or Hollywood, if they would have gone rogue and knew it was Stephen Dolan and still pursued him anyway and caught him and got his blood, and now he's looking at, 15 years in prison. Whoever it was, they would have got pulled behind a closed door and said, hey, idiot, if that was your kid, you'd want a favor, right? So what are you doing? I mean, that's how it would go. That's the Investigations Bureau. Totally.
So you're saying that things, and listen, I know that this happens, again, through personal experience, but, speaking out or doing the right thing could cost you your job. So you're saying that had these officers done their job and, did the investigation properly, quickly made an arrest, that it could have cost them their career.
They might not have lost it, but it certainly would have been derailed as far as progress,
Right.
They've been blacklisted in one way or another, for sure.
You know, I want to point out also too, you know, it wasn't one thing. It's like always getting hit. I mean, what this family is going through. So afterwards, remember, Dolan's father decided to put on his uniform and walk in the St. Patrick's Day parade, and he was in the next row from the investigating detective. So we grew up here. We're standing on the parade route, and my brother was speechless, saying, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe who just walked by me, Stephen Dolan's dad in his police uniform. Meanwhile, he's retired a couple of years now." So that was another punch in the face. It's like, and now what the mayor said, that's a bigger punch in the face. And if you listen to the recording, and it's the mayor knew I was recording, he turned around and said, and the DA told me twice, not once. So the DA, if you want to read the comment, because it was a very thorough.
Well, let me play this one audio here, and hopefully you can hear this. Well, I don't know if.
Which one is it, Fred? I can send you a link.
That's, I guess, the comment that he says, "I'd rather throw the beat down on you than him," and referring to Anthony Moranti, right? That's.
I sent you on an email containing an audio clip of that comment that you could probably play right from the computer.
Which is the one in terms of CJ?
No, the one in terms of I'd rather beat you down.
Yeah, I just played that. You didn't hear it?
No.
You played from your phone, though. Can you play from the computer? Because no, we didn't hear it at all.
Oh, give me 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Go ahead.
As I've said over and over again, Mike has had a very, very, very.
Things for free. I wish you knew.
Can you hear it now? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, let me play.
Yeah.
I do things for free. I wish you knew.
I'd rather throw the beat down on you than him.
No, but I would no, but it's not.
What does that even mean?
I do things for free. I wish you knew.
I'd rather throw the beat down on you than him.
No, but I would no, but it's not.
He says, "I'd rather throw the beat down on you than him." And Carolyn, to be fair, right? Because one of the things that they say is that you have an issue, a grudge against the mayor, and let's just just talk about that, because if that's what's being said, if people hear you and then they hear that, they might be they might perceive that as the reason why you're on here talking about it. Do you have a grudge against the mayor? Do you dislike Mike Spano? Do you dislike the Spano family? Is this about something personal, other outside of the CJ Hackett and the comment that was made?
Let's put it this way: ignorance is bliss, and I wish I didn't know the things I know. Things that are being done that were.
That's true. How
do I things that were told to me that are being done that makes this administration corrupt. That's the reality of it. And the seniors have gotten together. People have to fight against this administration because they're not doing right by the people. Nobody should have to, during a pandemic, do petitions, do rallies, or any of that. He should be listening to senior citizens. Okay, IEPs are being violated left and right, but this is not about the politics. This is about CJ. This literally is 150% about a mayor who is the leader of the city of Yonkers with 200,000 people in it that wants to say he'd rather give me a beat down. Is that what he would say to his wife or his mistress? I don't think so. But you want to give me a beat down. I'm a survivor of a 23-year domestic violence relationship. Okay. I don't need a mayor sitting there telling me that he wants to attack me. Okay. There's his words. Then to sit there and attack the boy. And I never put that in the article. It wasn't about that. It has to be about what he said about the boys. The boys.
Let me play that, Carolyn. I'm sorry. Let me just play that.
I do things for free. I wish you knew.
I'd rather throw the beat down on you.
That's not the audio there. I'm trying to. That's Tasha. Did you send me that one? I'm sorry. I don't know if I got that one.
No, that one I figured you could pull up in the article.
It's in the article.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This way people saw that not only were the words written, it was thoroughly investigated neutrally.
So, I mean, while you're pulling that up.
1 second. Let me
just say.
play here.
Okay, good.
Got it.
Blame the boys now? Wait, what do you mean? Are you trying to blame
The
the
internet.
boys? Your nephew was
The
with
internet
them.
cut out.
But you would not even. Are you serious? Wait till I tell my brother this one.
Yes.
Did you really just? Oh. And your
Can't hear
nephew
it.
was with my pictures. What do you think I didn't protect my nephew?
Not me.
But you're gonna blame boys. Are you serious? When your nephew was with them? Oh my God.
All right, let me play that again. My
You're
internet is not the
freezing.
best today, but I'm gonna
This one.
Yeah, play one more time.
Yes.
Did you really just?
Did we lose him?
I'm not sure we'd still be on the podcast if we did, but he's clearly having some internet issues. I've been on with him a lot of times, and we can't play something, for the audience to hear unless we're gonna play it on our cell phone. But we all know what he said, and Freddy will play it, I'm sure, when he comes back on. But my thing is, I still don't understand what the hell he means by it. It's very clear that he's indicating some sort of fault on the part of CJ and AJ, right, to shift some of the blame away from Dolan and onto them. But he needs to be challenged on what exactly he's saying, because he can't just be talking about them having consumed alcohol. That doesn't mean anything. And the way I think of it is, if say it was a 16-year-old girl who had walked down the street to her friend's house, and in the secrecy of her friend's bedroom, they were doing a little drinking. Okay. Then the girl walks home, and on her way home, she gets raped, forcibly raped. Is Mike Spano going to say, hey, you know what? It's unfortunate, but we all know what those girls were doing, right? No, he's not. He would never dare blame the victim.
I think what I also want people to know is that my brother, after he heard that, reached out, first called Vinny Spano. He didn't call back. Then called John Rubo, Councilman John Rubo, and said, I want to meet with the mayor. I want an apology. And John Rubo basically said to him, well, give me a snippet of what you have. And my brother said, first he said, give us the video of what you have, and we'll let you know if we're going to sit down and meet with you. And my brother said, no, absolutely not. So then John came back with, well, give me a snippet of what you have so we know you have something on tape. But the mayor saw me videoing. He made a comment in the tape that I was videoing. So just the fact that they ignored him and they were so arrogant,
Madison,
not to want to say sorry, is really sad.
They never have to walk on eggshells, because, like I've said many times, they have a very, very easy time with the media around here. They never get asked a tough question. If they do, it's always scripted. It's always something that they've been told was coming ahead of the interview, like when he went on Yo Digo No Mas or whatever, or anything that goes on with Rue Ross. There's no real media around here. Anything there is all in his pocket. So when he's unscripted, he's very clumsy. He's got two left feet. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, a comment like, I would rather beat you down. That I never said anything like that. And I lost my job for being psychologically, whatever.
And this is the mayor that said this to me. I mean,
and the reason that you don't like him, Carolyn, is because you pay attention. Okay, so many people don't around here, but people who do tend to not want any more.
Well, I've always called them out. I've written letters, I've written emails, everything's documented. The seniors protested. There's still an abusive worker over at the Parks Department that before some of them even met me, they wrote a petition about 5 years ago. Like, again, coming back to CJ, and we're getting off, and I don't mean to go off this topic.
No, that's okay.
I don't know why Freddie would say that. It's not about me not liking him. Freddie knows. Freddie's fought the corruption on basement politics. Okay, there's so much going on. Look what they just tried to do with the city council. there's a lot going on that shouldn't be going on, and it's not just unethical, and well, it's always been more than unethical. And here we are as citizens trying to say, hey, where is the justice? Here's a young boy that on December 14th, the judge decided, even though the district attorney said we'd like 4 years, the judge now, and the judge's name is McCarthy, not McCarthy, McCarthy, who I went up to the Board of Elections to try to see if I had his petitions, to see if he had any money donated from Yonkers or from the Spanos. And unfortunately, he was appointed by Scarpino. So there's no record of McCarty, and there's still people digging to see, but we've been told it's political is the reason that Dolan's getting off on 14 months. And the reality is he'll probably do, and I don't know the math, how that works. He'll probably do 8 months, and he just went in last month. So who knows how much sooner he might be out for killing a young man, that was 16 years old.
That building up in White Plains is about as political as it gets. McCarty, MC, capital A-R-T-Y.
Yes.
He probably goes to all the Emerald Society meetings. He's probably in the bagpipes and drums. I mean, it's.
Well, people are looking.
I'm just. I don't know that for a fact, but they're all members of the same club. So that's the problem. I mean, who was I telling before? I think I might have been telling your brother at one point. You got DWI, you got vehicular manslaughter. Put those to the side for a second. Just leaving the scene of an accident with a serious physical injury or death is a felony punishable by up to 7 years in prison. Unless there's something in the law where it's one of those laws that has its own maximum penalties. I don't think it is. Being a D felony makes it punishable by up to 7 years in prison. So before you even get to a beer being drank that night, leaving the scene, he can get 7 years. So it's.
So how is it getting 14 months? Somebody want to tell me?
Now you're adding on top of it that alcohol being involved plus the death of a 16-year-old. Mm-hmm. How are we in this 1 to 4 situation? I don't know. You can bet your ass that if it was me, that I did what Stephen Dolan did, I'd be probably looking at 25. You know what I mean? Because
Carolyn, what do you mean? Some Lucy Jen says, what does it mean his nephew was with them?
The kids were all hanging out that day in the park at Coyne Park. My nephew had to leave earlier because he got hit in the eye with I think it was a water pellet gun. So he went home for my sister-in-law to flush out his eye. But they were all together. They're a group of friends. So it's one, and I don't want to. The boy is a really nice, respectable boy. He's not fazed by being like a Spaniel like some of the other ones. And I'm not going to say his name, but he's one of the Mayor Mike Spano's brother's sons. So his nephew.
No, the younger generations are generally a little bit of a different breed. Like I said, I know some of them. Different.
Someone says, I bet he will get his job back when he's out. And I believe that because there are individuals who have been convicted of felonies, that have gone to jail, and they were employed by the city of Yonkers while committing this crime, gone to jail, spent several years in jail, come out as a felon and get their job back several months later. I see this pattern of individuals who are given, certain considerations. I mean, considerations that they should not be given at any point, right, or for any reason, while other individuals are, terminated, are suspended, people who are great, who are asset to the city. And so when you look at that pattern, you can't help but to say, and think that there's something not kosher here, right? In terms of the hiring and the firing here in the city of Yonkers, HR. I mean, there's something up here. There's definitely something wrong, The
point is, and I hope, and I'm sure they're watching, the district attorney's office, the judge, to do the right thing. We're watching. And as soon as the case is over, you're going to get copies of, unless it goes missing, copies of they have his phone records. He went missing allegedly for 6 minutes. They couldn't find him on cameras when they finally found all the camera footage. Who did he call in those 6 minutes? Did he call his father? So who did his father call when the father's a retired cop? Again, and I want to make this very clear. I am the biggest, and anybody could tell you, Freddie, we've had this conversation. I've had it with you, Anthony. I am the biggest first responder supporter. They're amazing. I don't care how much money, give them as much money as they want, because I grew up with so many of them. You know, I grew up with 2 firemen, but they're both deceased, you know, one very, very young from going down at 9/11. There's even after they retire, and this is what people don't understand about first responders. They retire and you're like, oh, they retire young, their family has them. But you have them with police that have seen so much horrors. You know,
I mean, you know, just to be honest, just to be fair, there are, you know, great police officers. There are great, you know, but there are also ones that are not so great, right? And that's the problem here. So we, you know, and this is, you know, we have to. Oh, we're always so that, you know, the police department, you know, they can never do any wrong. And I'm not saying that's the majority of them. I'm not speaking generally, but they are bad apples, and we have to start acknowledging that, right? And you know, we have to look at what happened with you know, a Detective Sergeant Frank Galdino, right? He was killed. He's killed by a 16-year-old, a police officer, right? And they seem to be protecting the 16-year-old. That's what a lot of people are saying. And here we have a 16-year-old get killed by a city employee, and the person that, you know, it seems like the people who are doing the killing are the ones that are protected.
Right. I mean, there's something that just went on with a police officer that actually is Hispano, and I'm not at liberty to discuss it, because let me tell you, if you thought this was about elections or about politics, I would tell you, because it was not okay. And I really can't go into it, but they'll know what I mean this week. But you know, it's the point is you can't say anything because everybody's afraid of its retaliation. But there's things going, and again, it's because he was arrogant. He's Hispano. He's a police officer, and he shouldn't. I really wish I could, but I can't. And again, it's back to CJ. The fact is, there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't make any sense. Somebody higher up should have came in and looked over this whole case. Where do those phone records lead? Who did he call in those 6 minutes? Who did that person call? Which, I mean, you would assume he'd call his dad, right? I mean, I don't know.
Well, let's talk about that really quick, Carolyn. And so what you're talking about here is that the amount of time, you know, from the time that he hit CJ to, you know, the time that he just kind of disappeared. Where did he go? There was 6 minutes where he wasn't, you know, they weren't able to locate him. And the issue with what, you know, with having been arrested so many hours later is that his blood then is diluted of the alcohol that's in it. And so, you know, the longer they wait, the less alcohol is in his blood. And then that affects the charges, right? That affects the amount of time that he may face. And so what people are, you know, saying is that, was he given time to have his blood, you know, diluted, or the alcohol to leave his blood? So that way, when he was arrested, you know, the charges wouldn't be as severe.
Right. Exactly. And again, I mean, it really comes down to the fact of it should have been out of Yonkers immediately. As soon as we found out that who his dad was, who his uncle was, I believe the brother's on a force too, but I think it's the Bronx.
Should have been Rockland County, right?
It should have been
Anthony,
out of
I'm sorry, you wanted to say something?
I'm sorry?
No, Anthony DiMaggio.
I wanted to remind you, Carolyn, do you remember over a year ago now when you first saw me on Freddy, we spoke about this, right? We ended up talking about it, and you asked me some questions, my perspective from a law enforcement, you know, from a cop, from being a cop. And I said, no, I don't think so. I don't think that there would be any sort of a cover-up involved. I don't, because if you remember the conversation, I thought we were talking about patrol guys, like, you know, the uniforms, who are all young and very new, don't have connections really. Some of them do, but don't know who the Dolans are. So if they were out there pursuing somebody, and even if they did know his name was Stephen Dolan, they don't know who that is, you know? And for them to take the risk of trying to hide him, or even letting him go, or driving him home, or something like that, all of that stuff is very far-fetched. I know none of that happened because the patrol guys wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. They don't know who he is. Even if they did, they can never get away with something like that. And this is why I differentiate. When you say first responders, my ears go up, because to me, investigators are not first responders. You hang your rig up, you hang your gun belt up when you put on a gold shield and become an investigator. And one of the things I always say is, when the gold shields show up, when the big time investigators show up, get ready for things to get very funky, because that's when political considerations start taking over, especially in Yonkers, where the only litmus test for becoming a detective, an investigator, is are you either a member of or subservient to the Friends and Family Network at City Hall. They don't say, okay, this guy's a great investigator. Let's make him a detective, and then once he's in the detective division, we'll try to mold him into becoming, a Friends and Family member type of a cop, the type of a detective. They don't do that. You have to bend the knee first, in one way or another. Then you get in. That's why the whole building is full of people who are gonna, defer to the captain. This is a Nolan. What should we do? Like that kind of a thing.
Right.
If that happened,
this leads to a lot of unqualified individuals that are in certain positions here within the city of Yonkers, patronage jobs, people that have not taken the civil service exams, yet they have been given positions, supervisors not taking supervisor exams, but becoming a supervisor, skipping many people. And a lot of people are upset about this. This is still continuing to happen. And so, that is a problem. And that's something that we definitely need to continue to speak about. I know the ethics board or board of ethics here in the city of Yonkers was asked to look into that, to investigate the hiring practices here in the city of Yonkers. They haven't done anything. We've talked about that. And so this is unfortunate. So we have individuals working for the city who are underqualified, who are also, people who are not of good character. I hear about the drug use, the alcohol abuse while on the job. And this isn't the first time. This isn't going to be the last time, because city employees are still drinking and driving. And I've posted pictures.
I'm sorry,
of
guys. And I apologize, Freddie, and I thank you for doing this so much. I just want to keep it on CJ for a second, because I want it very well known. Wait, you weren't there, Freddie. I don't know if you heard me. This was never meant to go public. They were asked. My brother reached out to Vinny Spano. I don't know if you were on, you heard us, and left a message on his phone. He didn't call back. Then he reached out to Councilman Rubo and said, I heard the video, the audio. It's not okay what the mayor said. I want to meet with the mayor. I've been trying to meet with the mayor 15 months. This all happened yesterday, 15 months. And my brother was at the Hyatt meeting last Wednesday, and he was going to ask about the CJ case. He went up to the gentleman that was with the mayor. He said, this is my question. He showed it to them. Do you think I should ask this? They said, we can't tell you not to ask it. We prefer you don't, and we can get you a meeting with the mayor within the next day or two. So my brother said, okay. So he left. Okay. And they never called him. So
Carolyn, let me just, what did your brother think was going to happen? Your brother really quick, your brother has dealt with this when it came to the detectives and the investigation early on, right? He saw the game that they played with him. He saw how those, this is what is talking to them in privately going to do. We have to put out the information. You have to make it public, because these individuals are operating like a mafia. They're targeting people. They're intimidating people. They're literally killing people, right? And allowing these individuals to get away with it. And so we have to speak about it. We have to be vocal and public about it. Otherwise, it's never going to change. I mean, look, after CJ Hackett was killed, there was still a DPW supervisor driving the DPW vehicle to a bar, then driving home after drinking at that bar an hour north to his home. And this is something he would do every weekend. You have a candidate that's running for District 1, a city employee behind the wheel with alcohol, posting these pictures online. Nothing is changing. They don't seem to learn or care. So we have to blast them. We have to put it out there. Everyone needs to know that this is continuing to happen. It's not the first time. We had Akeem Jamal injure an individual on Central Avenue after leaving a political event with the mayor was there, other elected officials. There was drinking involved, and people have told me there possibly was drugs involved, allegedly, right? And there was an individual there in that party who was arrested for possessing 100 grams of cocaine, right? So that's very well possible. And then he goes and hits an old man on Central Avenue, driving the wrong way. Another police officer kills himself. So many different stories of this happening, and is not stopping, right?
I was
and
at that
accident
scene, by the way. I was at that accident scene with Akeem Jamal.
And
someone brought
what
that
happened
to my
there?
attention. If I was told correctly, that was the scene that was underneath the Palmer Road Bridge over Central Avenue. Now, when it was brought to my attention, I remember I was there, and those vehicles were destroyed. I remember by the time I pulled up, they had taken the occupants to the hospital already in the ambulances, so they weren't there. I remember looking at the cars and saying, "Nobody's dead. Nobody's dead in this right here."
No one will get away with that stuff. No one watching here, most people in Yonkers will never get away with something like this. Yet and still, so many of them who are connected to this family and friends network has gotten away with it. And yes, this is about CJ Hackett, and I'm not trying to make it political, and I'm not. I'm pointing out what's wrong with this, city, and what's wrong with our government. And let's not let CJ Hackett's, name, be in vain. And let's use this as a catalyst to create change, real sustainable change. And that's why we need to continue to talk about it, because I'm fed up. I'm honestly fed up with all of it. All of it. I've been attacked for 2 years. My wife's been attacked for 2 years. They can, at the snap of a finger, get you fired while leaving a man, helping a man who just killed a 16-year-old child.
Freddie, you sit there and say, if I'm upset with the mayor or don't like I don't even know if the man knows they've sent the building department to my house. They've sent the a police officer from the mayor's detail to my house. And you know what I was doing? Helping senior citizens get their ADA violations fixed. That's what I was doing, Freddie. They have attacked me. They've attacked my children. They don't stop. But this with CJ, and why I said that to you, and I didn't mean to make you upset. What I said was because every time this comes up, it's like a cut, and off comes the scab for the family. The mother was crying again. The mother's backyard is to the cemetery. Do you understand? You got these cocky men that are in power. And again, the mayor says that to me. I know what they were doing. The DA told me, and you're throwing all these people in, but where are you throwing the responsibility on a 46-year-old man or on a bar that's owned by the mayor's nephew? Where does this stop? I don't know what else.
It's an unforced error, Carolyn. It's just an unforced error.
Let me just ask this question. I'm sorry. Tony Soleri, your brother, says, just a quick question. Does anyone think the reason why Mike Nolan's case got more press from the mayor than CJ case is because it was black on white crime? So why did that case get more attention, more support from the death of, and not to take away from the loss of the Nolan family, right? And we're not saying anything negative again, but what's the difference here?
Well, for one, the Mike Nolan case was an intentionally violent and intended to kill somebody kind of a crime, and but also, as far as politics, the person who did it wasn't from around here, didn't have connections around here. Mayor wasn't gonna ruffle any feathers with any of his supporters by coming out and speaking out against the guy that did it. That would be very different.
Makes sense.
CJ's case.
Makes sense.
But
again, that's another example. Another example is if you're connected, you're part of the family and friends network, how you get more attention, whether you're the victim or you're the person that victimized someone. Sorry, Carolyn, go ahead.
No, well, to me, when he said that, and I've been thinking about what did he mean? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Explain it. And then he just gave me this nasty look and walked out. And he didn't walk far because I was sitting there and the senior's like, why did he do that? What was he saying? Who's he blaming? And all I can think of is, wow, it just keeps getting confirmed that the corruption is what really soiled this case. And I'm not saying the cops that were on there again, and I don't mean to keep going back to this because again, I'm a very big supporter, and I don't know if you want me to say police officers, firemen, but when it got higher up, there was a certain captain that a lot of things he said made no sense. And we know since then how he's connected to Dolan's uncle and is supposedly very close with him. And I guess the father too. I guess they're known as brothers. And here's my thing. Maybe this will make the judge realize, hey, we see you. We know what you're doing. Do right. Read the law, whatever the law is, and I don't pretend to know what it is. And you need to give him a sentence that goes by the law. Okay? Because on December 14th, the mom is going to be there, his brother and CJ's brother and sister, and I don't know if the dad's going to be there because the dad is just.
Carolyn, I want to ask you a question here because this is coming up, and I want to be fair. Why were the kids being given beer by Carolyn, your brother? So that's something that was mentioned.
That's what somebody had said, and let me explain something to you. My brother and he's been on your show. He owns a security camera system, like a security business. And his house on the inside, on the outside, has the best cameras and I don't know names, but they swivel, they do all kinds of things. Okay. That day we saw, because we were trying to figure out the timing, like I told you, he was at work. They were not at my brother's house at all that day. They came over. AJ came home because he got something in his eye from the pellet gun. I know it's water pellet or something from my sister-in-law to wash it out. He has video of AJ coming home first. Then later on, CJ and another boy, and I forgot his name, came over and they asked to sleep over. And I believe the time around was 11:45. And he said, yeah, sure. My brother is at the kitchen table. You see all of this at the kitchen table on his computer doing his work for the day, his billing. And then you see maybe a half an hour later, the other boy come, not CJ, the other boy that was with them, come and leave. And then
your brother never gave him any alcohol at all?
No, we have video.
And I'm sure that, they would have gotten, did they look at the camera system that your brother has? Did they look at the video from that night?
I don't know. You'd have to ask my brother. I honestly don't know.
I've gotten to know Tony pretty well, and I don't see that at all. Tony's, he's parents who do things like that are parents who are pushovers. And Tony's not a pushover. Tony's a cool guy, but I don't see him giving two 16-year-olds beer.
Right.
He's not an irresponsible guy. I don't know him that well, but he doesn't seem like that kind of a parent at all to me. But then again, even if he did, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
This is what they're doing.
Well, the mayor's nephew, as you said, Carolyn, was with the boys, the group of boys that night. So he would know if there was any beer served to them or not. They can just simply ask the mayor's nephew. He was there. I just want to put that out there because that's what people are saying. I will, want you to address it. I think it's important that you address these things. People are going to post up, things, and you have to, I always believe in just facing it, addressing it, not running from it.
And again, let's make this very clear. Knock, knock. Mr. Mayor Mike Spano, I was at a loss for words that day, but I'm telling you now, you're not only a corrupt mayor, you're a horrible human being. And I always blamed Nick Spano for being your puppeteer, but you are just as guilty as the rest of them. Okay? There is a boy 6 feet under. And there's other stories I've heard about your family when I just recently that another boy that lost an eye because of one of your nephews and he was paid off, but his life is ruined. You can't keep doing this. We're real people. People are speaking up. People are speaking out. Okay. And it has to stop. It has to stop. You were asked for an apology. Your brother was called. Rubo was called, and you just want to be that arrogant that you don't think you got to sit down and just apologize. I didn't want your apology, even after you wanted to throw me a beat down, because I know it's not genuine. Okay. But if my brother wanted that so that his son would see that the mayor of a city of 200,000 said sorry, then that's what you should have done. And you chose not to do that. And we were not going to come here and there was going to be no article written. That's the truth.
Your brother says, listen, all I want is the mayor to apologize for his comment and I will go away. But, I don't see that happening. I don't see the mayor apologizing for anything. And even if he did, what would that mean? Would that change anything? And I think that's what we're looking for. A lot of people are very tired of the way Yonkers is being operated and has been operated for the past 12 years. People are constantly coming up to me with a story, right? And not as, as tragic, obviously, as, the death of 16-year-old CJ Hackett, but they have their own story of how they were terminated falsely, or they were attacked, or they were targeted by individuals, their business. I'm not the only one. My story isn't unique. Unfortunately, it's not unique. And, a lot of people have come up to me and it just drives me crazy. And I just don't know what to do. What do we do? Right. All these stories, so many different people have had issues. It's really bad. I mean, my wife had a great career up until she became employed by the city of Yonkers, which a big mistake. Many other people have seen that, have made that same mistake and have left Yonkers as a result. People are leaving Yonkers as a result. They just can't deal with it anymore. What do we do? What do we do?
here's the ironic part. My house was up for sale 2-3 years ago, and there was a very interested local construction man. Went down to the building department, and he was scared away. That what he had to go, and the realtor called and said, what's going on with that? And he said, no, I went there. They told me I wouldn't get my permits for months, and I needed the approval of this one or approval of that one. And it's like, the corruption doesn't stop. It affects you in your life every different way. And people don't start realizing it or speaking out to say something until it really impacts their life, like it did with you, Freddie. You know, it's done with all of us. It's a major impact, and it needs to stop. You know, if he gets, and I said to him, and it's on tape, if you get another term, what are you going to do any different? You know, and that's the truth. Is he going to do anything different? Guess what? The reason I wasn't coming on here, you know that. Well, Anthony knows that. I wasn't going to come on here. I didn't. I said, oh, God, they're already putting my name out there. I'm getting fake calls. Today there was things sent that Carolyn says something bad about Morante.
Right,
Carolyn says, it went to a whole bunch of Democrats calling me, and then Republicans. Right. And I'm like, but what are you doing? Like, they're going to attack me. But you know what? This is going to be here so that they know that, hey, you know, this is documented, and I got a lot of other documentation. Okay, we want to be left alone. It's that simple. Doing right by this young man on December 14th. Again, you know, what is the right thing to do? What does that law say? I don't know. But they're not going to go.
They're not going to change the way they're moving in the direction that they're headed with this. That's never going to happen. You're not going to get your apology. I'm just being straight honest with you. You're not going to get it. No one's going to get it. They're going to continue with the same narrative that they have been, putting out there. That's not going to change. It's up to the people to create the change. They're not going to change. I want to read this. The CJ wasn't in control of the vehicle. It was a DPW worker who was driving. If there were alcohol beverages provided to the young individual, that wasn't the cause of his demise. If Mike Spano genuinely worried about underage drinking, why doesn't he take action against all the bodegas displaying his signs that are selling marijuana without proper license? There sure are a lot of bodegas that are selling marijuana. They're being supplied by people that are connected. Selling alcohol to minors. I've seen them sell heroin to heroin addicts at one time, not too long ago. And these are businesses that are supporting current administration. I know for a fact that they're making money. People that are connected to the administration are making money off these bodegas. Some of them are even supplying the bodegas with the marijuana. And it's every day. Yet they will, not care about CJ Hackett and his family. They will not care about Anthony DiMaggio and his family. They will not care about you, Carolyn. They will not care about me and many, many other individuals here in the city of Yonkers that have dealt with the corruption, the retaliation by individuals who are just pure evil. Pure evil. That's it. Pure evil. And we need to come out and vote. We need to be more active. And even if the election doesn't, the people who are running for re-election get in there anyway. We cannot stop being vocal. We have to continue to be vocal. The opposition is growing. More and more people are seeing it. More and more people are speaking out because people are finally fed up, and we have to continue to lead the charge. Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, Carolyn, he's not going to apologize. In my opinion, he should either apologize or explain what he means. What do you mean by we know what they were doing? What were they doing? And clearly you're trying to imply that it was somehow CJ's fault. So in what way? It has to be something beyond just him having consumed alcohol, if that's what you're saying. So he should either apologize or explain. He's not going to do either, but that shouldn't stop you from still demanding that he do so. And all of us demanding.
We all need to demand, and we all need to speak out. We all need to come out. It's election November 7th. People have to come out, stop being afraid. Some people say, I don't want to deal with it. He's going to win anyway. That's a bad attitude. We have to come out. We have to vote. We have to show that we are involved, that we do care, and that we're not going to just continue to be bullied anymore. Many people are being bullied. I love how they celebrate, anti-bullying month. They have people in the Yonkers public schools wearing orange. You fake fraud liars. You're some of the biggest bullies in the city of Yonkers. Many unqualified people who work there.
People who think that way about voting, you have one vote to throw in a bucket, and people who think, he's the incumbent, he's going to win, so I'm not going to vote. Don't worry about what other people are going to do. Don't worry about it. Just do your civic duty. That's it. Right. And then once you vote, if you lose, you get the right to complain.
Right.
What I'd really like to say is that anybody watching, if they could keep the CJ Hackett family in their prayers on December 14th. Please. I believe in prayer. You know, I'm a Catholic schoolgirl all the way up, and they need strength and they need prayer and they need to see that people are supporting them. And this is not okay what the mayor said about underage children. It should have been about the adults being liable for what they did. And just please keep them in your heart and say prayers for them, and because that's going to be one of the roughest days. And at that point, this can no longer be talked about. And I'm asking you guys after that, please don't bring it up anymore after this, because this family is going to need to have to heal, and they're never going to heal. They're never going to be the same. They're never going to heal, but they need to at least, you know, give them that respect that there's nothing. They've done everything they can possibly have done. You know, my brother has done everything he can possibly do. He drew a map for you with the cameras. He did investigation. You know, people are telling us things. There's nothing more that we can do at this point, but I believe in God, and I believe that, you know, God says vengeance is mine, says the Lord. And I believe that way. And at this point going forward, you know, people need to speak up, because it could be you next. Somebody that's just sitting there watching this that doesn't think they're affected today. Well, tomorrow you know, your kid might need an IEP and you can't get it. And it could
or
be
God forbid your child or your family member or your loved one is killed by another drunk driving employee because nothing was done. There was no example set. It was never nipped in the bud, and you are the next victim. Unfortunately, it was CJ Hackett, 16-year-old. Unfortunately, it was Detective Sergeant Frank Goldino. And God forbid it will be one of us, one of our family members, one of your family members next. We must speak out about this. This has to stop. They cannot continue to protect these individuals who are doing this because simply they are connected some way. Their family is connected. They are political campaign contributors donating a lot of money to their campaigns. We have to speak up, Yonkers. Look at what's happening around you. Look how much the city is changing. Is crime really down? Have the schools improved? Has our community quality of life improved? Traffic jams, congestion now, a bunch of developments, affordable housing. There are so many issues. How can we truly say that the city has improved in the past 12 years? How can we truly say this? There's nothing that would suggest that. They're criminals operating here in the city of Yonkers. Literally criminals.
Well, thank you for making the effort, Carolyn, to, you know, expose these kinds of things, you know.
Well, they're not. I mean, they just don't. It's a bunch. They don't stop, unfortunately. And
no, they don't. They're fascists. You know, they have that fascist. They have that fascist mentality. What was it Mussolini said? It's better to live one day as a lion than 100 years as a lamb, or something like that. You know.
And I just want to say a thank you to the Yonkers Ledger, which seems to only be the only paper that is neutral. If you ever read his articles, it's fair from both sides. And that's the problem with this world. You know, when I was young, I was growing up, my parents were always watching the news. It was real news, you know, and unfortunately, we don't have any real news here in Yonkers. And, you know, he started this non-for-profit and wouldn't publish it because it happens. He wouldn't publish it till he got both sides and knew what was going on and got a kind. At first, the mayor's team was not commenting, and then he commented, "The mayor won't comment on a private conversation." How is it a private conversation when he's leaning over a senior over the table to tell me that about the boys? And when he approached the table, there were seniors on either side when he said, "I'd much rather give you the beat down." I mean, and they're all like, "What happened? What was that about?" So it was not a private conversation. It was in the middle of a Halloween party.
Well, Carolyn, unfortunately, I'm sorry that happened to you, you know, and it's very unfortunate from anyone, whether it's a mayor or just, you know, an average citizen. That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't be disrespected, intimidated. So I'm sorry that happened to you, but it's good that you're, you know, and I tell people this, make sure you record everything. Always be prepared to record because you're going to need it one day. Listen, I'm hearing from close members of the Spano family that Mike is dealing with severe medical issues. That is something that I've been hearing about also, you know, some heart conditions, maybe some medication. You know, I don't know, but maybe he's very stressed out. Maybe he's not thinking straight. You know, maybe that's what he's.
No, that's not an excuse for what he said about the boys. We're not giving him any more excuses. I used to. From here on in, that won't happen anymore. He is what he is. And here's the other thing. Believe what politicians show you, not tell you. Okay, because they could say anything they want. The biggest joke is, how do you know a politician's lying? When their mouth is moving. So let's see what's going on around in this neighborhood. Let's see what's going on. What happened with CJ. There was cameras that saw what happened or traced the cars, but they didn't find them till months later. So let's go by what they show us. Let's not listen to any more of what they're telling us, because they're lying.
Anthony, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up? Been on.
No, I mean, there's a lot I would like to say, but we're going to keep it about CJ, as best we can. And as far as that, I think it just comes down to, what was he thinking? I don't get it. I mean, I know the mayor's not the sharpest guy. I don't think he is, but, it was just, the truth comes out during the unscripted moments. That's when you see what people are really all about. And I think that's what this is a good example of. Aside from that, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you, Carolyn.
No,
Carolyn, anything you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
There needs to be change, and whether it's with a different administration or this administration, I hope they're hearing what everybody's saying. I hope they're reading the comments of what everybody's saying. There are laws that are meant for everybody, and politicians shouldn't be allowed to change them to fit their narrative. They should stick for politicians as well as residents. And in order for us to go forward in this world with everything going on, it's a very scary world now, and we need to stick together. And believe me, I know that there's still people, even in City Hall, that are watching, and they're telling us information, and, maybe once they realize that how much they're being watched, and we're speaking out now, then maybe they'll start to change a little bit for the better. You can only hope, and what Anthony always used to say is, what's in the dark will come to the light. And that's what's happening, and it's just very sad that no matter what, nothing's going to bring him back. And it's unacceptable. And there's not even a punishment to fit the crime. Where's Lady Liberty, or the lady with the skills over there? They're not even here in the city of Yonkers. And it's
here in the city of Yonkers, justice is not distributed evenly. People are not treated equally. You have to be a part of a certain group, family and friends network, as we call them. These are individuals. And if you're wondering who they are, you can just go online and you can see the same individuals that are at all the political events. You've seen one picture, you see them all, the same individuals. They get the preferred treatments. Their family members get preferred treatment. The rest of the city of Yonkers have to suffer. It's unfortunate. Carolyn, thank you so much for joining me. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Anthony, you said, look like you were going to say something. We're going to say something.
Well, what was at the tip of my tongue is that I think that a lot of the things we're talking about tonight played largely into Mimi's decision to not seek re-election, because she ran on a platform of cleaning up government corruption and holding people within the government accountable. And I think she just got here and was like, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into?" To hell with this. I'm.
That's a good point.
No mas, please. No more, please.
Good
Thank
point.
you.
But she was also left emails and phone calls and never called back. So you know what? She's responsible for herself. She got into that office and she could have done the right thing. She was a district attorney. She could have done the right thing by the people. And she's like sitting there playing tennis and just throwing all the, let's let Liam investigate this in the ethics board. I'm just not going to call back anybody that's concerned about CJ's case. You can't get in office and that's the other thing. And it's a totally different podcast, maybe one day. Why are these positions political? Why is the IG, the AG, why are all these positions so political? Because that, and again, that's another podcast.
People have ambitions, It's so Mimi, you could tell by her tweets that she's very, very ambitious. She has aspirations above and beyond being the district attorney of Westchester County. So when you have ambitions, you have masters, right? That's what it comes down to. She has masters within the party, and she takes orders. So it's implicit orders, if not explicit orders. So she's not marching to the beat of her own drum. If she were, she would be doing a lot. She would be taking out a lot of this corruption, because it's it's out in the wide open. But she's worried about herself, like most people. So
And what about the Attorney General, Letitia James? She's going after politicians, but she's going after Donald Trump. She seems to only care about, Donald Trump and not what's actually happening here in the state of New York, where it's so corrupt. New York State is actually probably the number one, if not number two, most corrupt, politically corrupt state in the country. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. But Yonkers and Westchester County is extremely, corrupt. The people of Yonkers need to know this. We need to come out and vote. This is why many people do not get city jobs, right? We're struggling out here for the average person. So we need change. I appreciate you folks coming on, joining me. I'm Freddy Vazquez.
Because it takes place in the dark. Okay, so we got to keep doing what we're all doing. Freddy,
Right.
you're running the podcast. I'm doing the podcast. Carolyn, you're speaking out about what matters to you. You got to keep doing it. And more people got to do it. And that's how things will change.
And I'm going to be coming out now because, I have nothing to lose. So I'm going to be starting a new podcast series I'm going to be working on. It's called Mafia City. No, I'm not going to be speaking about the actual mafia, Anthony DiMaggio, but I will be talking about the mafia like, a political establishment here. They, run like a mafia. We'll be talking about the Don, the Godfather down to the underbosses, but it will be all about the elected officials because that's how they operate. It's a very a mafia-like mentality. They use intimidation, retaliation, retribution. They will attack you any which way. Take everything from you and not think twice and keep it moving. And so I want to start talking about that. I'm going to do a whole podcast series. We have to put a light on this. We have to make a national spotlight on this. We have to have people from all over the country looking at Yonkers saying, my goodness, have you heard of this place called Yonkers, New York, and the corruption that exists within that city? It's unbelievable. And more people, I would love to hear from you. Those who have been fired out of retaliatory reasons, retribution, who have had issues with the city, please email me, politicwithfred@gmail.com. I'm putting together some information. I want to show the people just how many people have been affected, right? And we need to make this big. We need to blow this up. And I'm going to be doing that. I'm not going to stop. I don't care what they try to do to me. It's only going to actually motivate me more. So I appreciate you folks coming on. Thank you very much. Will, it's going to be coming out. We're going to go in heavy. We're going to talk about the individual who tried to steal a police officer exam, a Yonkers police officer exam, which was kept in a safe. How did they get the code? They were caught by someone, and that person ended up getting fired as a result. You know him, Carolyn. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics, folks. Thank you for joining me. Anthony, thank you. Carolyn, thank you so much. Take care. Have a blessed night.
Thank you.
Voters are coming out strongly against Spano, says Joe Dolly. People in the city probably feel like, why bother going out to vote? Spano's going to get in anyway. Listen, you have to exercise, your right to vote. Many people have fought and died for that right. Whether, you're a minority, like a woman, right? Women fought hard. If you're Hispanic, Black, you fought hard for the right to vote. Exercise your right to vote. I haven't always been voting, I'll be honest with you, but as I've been more involved in politics and what's going on here in the city of Yonkers, I realize how important it is to speak out, to be active, be involved, and vote, right? And like Carolyn said, I wish I could go back to the days when I didn't know what was going on here in Yonkers. I was oblivious to it. I was ignorant to it. And I was just doing what I was, doing, living my life. But now I'm aware. And once you're aware, you can't be unaware. It's impossible. And once you know what's happening here, you can't help but want to do something about it. It's horrible. It is horrible. Unfortunately, we've had to make major changes in our lives as my wife has been targeted for termination by the Yonkers Public Schools and the School Board of Trustees because I do my podcast. She has done an amazing job. She has done great at her position in the 3 years that she's been with the city. She's done things like volunteer her time after school and on the weekends in order to create a cheerleading program for girls at Roosevelt. And she did that for a while until they shut it down. They literally took that away from the girls just to spite her and to spite me. She threw an amazing talent show at YMA, Yonkers Montessori School, her first year as an assistant principal, which brought out 500 people to this talent show, raising over $3,000, which was used for the kids to go on a trip. And they had a picnic also. We're always crying broke. And my wife was able to raise $3,000 by doing something amazing for the kids at Yonkers Montessori Academy. What was the result? A low evaluation, a poor evaluation by the principal there. Why? No one has done anything like that and hasn't been done since. Why is it that all the staff members can say how great she is and all the students can say how great she is at YME, yet her boss cannot see it? How is it that she can go to Roosevelt and take over tasks that were supposed to be done by other APs who were not doing them correctly? She does it well, and yet she's still targeted. Why does she get a great evaluation in February of this year, only to get one that was poor, where they recommended she be fired in June? They literally lie, literally, and we'll be going through that. We're going to talk all about it on the podcast here because they're trying to fire her anyway. They're giving her the termination letters. Why? Because I do a podcast and I talk about the corruption here in the city of Yonkers. So that, resulted in my wife being attacked. They attacked our business. They got us shut down by harassing the owner of the building where my business was located. They did that until she finally was fed up with us. And then they went after my wife. They're literally trying to suffocate us and take any form of income that we're, trying to make here so we can't survive. That's literally what they'll do. And they're going to try to make an example out of me so that no one will ever start a podcast again to expose the corruption that goes on here in the city of Yonkers. But I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue to expose it. And now that we have nothing to lose, I'm going to talk about it in much more detail. I'm going to tell you the dirty little secrets that they don't want you to know. And we're going to continue to talk about them. Like Carolyn said, the mistress. Who are the mistresses? There are two of them. Two of them. A blonde and a brunette. And we're going to talk about them. How much money are they making here in the city of Yonkers? How did they get those jobs? Why did they just create these titles? Because they're the mistresses? And who was going to pay off a guy and give him a job in the Yonkers public schools to cover up an affair that person had? Although the guy didn't want the money. Didn't want the job, I should say. He just took the money and divorced the woman who was caught stealing the Yonkers police officer exam, who was shooting up heroin, snorting cocaine, who's driving under the influence of pain pills and heroin, who's selling cocaine here in the city of Yonkers within the departments. And why is it that they are overlooking this? The information has been presented to individuals that should do something about it. Why do they ignore it? They care about my wife, who does an amazing job, and they will go after her and fire her. But they don't care about the employees that are having sex in the park. I got the documents. I got the evidence. Got the pictures, I got the audio, the video, and we're going to discuss it. Why is this individual not fired? He was putting his finger down a girl's pants while on the job, leaning up against a truck, and then they literally started having sex while standing up in broad daylight at Grant Park. But that person isn't fired. What about the heroin addict that crashed the city vehicle? That person isn't fired. What about the person selling the drugs? That person isn't fired. What about the supervisor at DPW that drives to bars in DPW vehicles? He isn't fired. What about the police officer that beat his wife? Not only was it covered up by other police officers, but it was covered up by Empress. They showed up to the scene. They removed the wife from the house. And more. And we're going to talk about it right here on Basement Politics, Mafia City, a new series. I got to find a new way to make money. Maybe Netflix will give me a deal. Stay tuned for that. I'm going to put it all out there. I don't care what you guys think or say or try to do. You wanted to go to war. Now we're going to war. I was trying to be peaceful with you, but I see that you want to play games. So we'll go to war. It is what it is. We'll talk about the personal stuff. Let's talk about the affairs. Let's talk about the corruption and the criminal behavior, the stealing, It's all going to be put out there. And these are officials that are elected. So this November 7th, if I were you going to the polls, I would consider voting for the candidate challenging the incumbent, because the incumbent is most likely a criminal, drug addicted, womanizing, evil individual. And I'm still trying to find out, James Kavanaugh, that article you wrote about Jose Alvarado when you worked for the Herald Statement, former deputy mayor of the city of Yonkers, now the president of the YIDA, used to be a journalist who wrote for the Herald Statesman. And he wrote about a Jose Alvarado that was breaking into houses and raping people in the Nodine Hill section of Yonkers. A Hungarian, was it Honduras, wherever Jose Alvarado's from. Was that the same Jose Alvarado? These are criminals stealing the elections. And it's time that we talk about it. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics. Yes, we need the feds. The feds, vote for Jose Diaz. We need the feds. Are the feds going to do anything about it? I mean, they're interested in information. What information do you have? Get it over to me. politicwithfred@gmail.com. It could be worth money, like $1,000. Right, Albie? Alberto Vazquez once got paid $1,000 for the Yonkers police reports on Ruros and Brian Harrod. He wanted $1,500, but he only got the $1,000. And he did this through a middleman who currently works for the Board of Education. I got the video. I was recording it. Then they tried to sell me information that was public about a family who recently suffered a loss. Alberto Vazquez, CSCA president. Ruros, I thought he was your buddy. Why did he sell the Yonkers police report where you had the child porn in your phone? He don't care about you. They don't care about each other. They're a bunch of snakes, and they will stab each other in the back. Alberto Vazquez, CSCA president, you're a snake, and your day is coming, dog. Your day is coming. Have a blessed night, folks. Time for payback.
I was raised in.
Freddy wins.
I want to end this quick because I'm greedy and I want some of the butter chicken. So thank you.
In another one, Mr. Rumo lied to me, and I don't vote for a person that lied to me. Thank you very much.
I work in your office, and I was also told that you favor some over others. I'm hoping that this is not true, Sammy. I'm hoping that this is not true, Sammy. But I'm a councilwoman, so the capacity that I know you in, they may know you in a different capacity. I know you have a lot of women that work in your office.
We are the real McCoy. We are the original.
Good evening, Carolyn. This is Stephen Tavert. Sorry that I'm calling you so late, but I just got your number a little bit ago. I actually intended to call you prior to this yesterday, in fact, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So I apologize for calling you later than I wanted to. And in any event, I was calling to apologize for the awful and childish and ridiculous and immature and there's not enough adjectives to describe my behavior. In any event, feel free to call me back at 914-906-2564. If you are willing, I'd be happy and like to talk to you in person or at least on the phone, I should say. And again, I apologize for calling this late, but I just got a hold of your number. So hope you're well.
That's Steve Tavert, the chief of staff of Councilman Mike Breen, after he was caught bullying Carolyn online, harassing her online using a fake page, but he slipped up and he was identified as the individual using that fake page. So what'd he do? He called her and left her that message. And that was it. These are what these scumbags do. They attack you using fake pages. They call you with fake numbers. They attack you any which way through their connections, whether it be in the building department, whether it's the board of trustees, at the board of education. They're coming after you any which way if you try to interrupt their crime organization here, their criminal organization, their criminal enterprise. They will come for you. They will come for you any which way. Steve Travert, you punk, you got caught. Remember that day at Dos Marias, Steve? Man, I'll whoop your ass, Steve. Straight up and down. Any day of the week. But I'm not a violent guy. I don't want them to think that. But I will whoop your ass, Steve, any day of the week, man. Word up. Stevie's little blunder. That's right. Steve Travert, you little, woman abuser guy. Look at you going after women, you punk, right? And that's what they do. Like Alberto Vazquez, when he tried to literally run me off the road. My daughter will attest to that any day of the week. He was cursing in front of her, calling me the B word, right? From his vehicle across to my side I'm driving while my daughter's in the passenger seat. Is that how a man is supposed to talk in front of a 12-year-old girl? This is the CSCA 9169 president, a man that's in school buildings with young girls. A man that once complained that he was the target of retaliation because he spoke about all the asbestos that are located throughout all the Yonkers public school buildings that has been impacting the health of the students, and they don't want you to know. Has your child had breathing issues recently? You better go check that out. These schools are so old. I got all of the, there was a report that was done a while back. I got a hold of this report that talks about the conditions of the Yonkers public schools and the desperate need there is to rebuild these Yonkers public schools, all of them, because they're so old and they're a danger to the health of our children who are sitting in them every day, as well as the staff members. And yet they've done nothing about it, struggling to build one school. There's so much wrong with this city. And if you don't see it, then you're probably benefiting in some way. Shout out to this supervisor who became a supervisor not that long ago, who was hired only 3 years ago and didn't even have to take the supervisor civil service exam. Shout out to you. I'll be talking about you soon. Be blessed, be well. I'm Freddy Vazquez. We're going to let it all hang out now. You ready?